Hi class, this is about primates and human evolution. So we're looking at how humans kind of basically evolved from our primate ancestors. So if you don't know, some of our closest relatives are bonobos and chimpanzees and other primates. And this kind of lecture is just basically explaining how we kind of evolved from this and how we can kind of put the pieces together in the puzzle that leads to our understanding of human evolution. And it's always changing. There's different things that we are finding out and different things that we'll just talk about. So for starts, we are a primate. So this is an order of class Mammalia. All right, so if you remember from taxonomy, order is a little bit smaller than class. All right, so the primate is a subsect of class Mammalia. Mammalias are mammals. They have mammary glands is probably the biggest thing that they have. And we are mammals and primates. One of the things that they have is binocular vision. So that's, two eyes, kind of like, think of like binoculars. All right, and which kind of leads to stuff like depth perception. All right, and this is a huge adaptation. A lot of other animals, they don't have as strong of eyesight as we do. It's one of the few animals that do have a stronger vision is raptors and predatory birds. But a lot of animals, if you think about like dogs, they have a really strong sense of smell, but their eyesight is not as developed. They have a well-developed cerebrum. All right, so their cerebrum is this part of the brain right here. All right, this is where a lot of the thinking and problem solving comes into play. So that's, humans and monkeys have very big cerebrum. All right, gigabrain. All right, relatively long fingers and toes. If you look at your fingers on your hands, you got pretty long fingers compared to a lot of other animals out there. If you look at think of like maybe a cat or a dog, their toes aren't as big, especially as our fingers. All right, and arms that can rotate around their shoulder joint. So think about like monkeys, especially like a spider monkey, like right here. All right, this allows us for more flexibility and kind of allowed us to move from the trees to where we as humans are, which is more on the ground. But our ancestors had to transition from living in the trees and the safety of the trees kind of down to the ground, and that was a challenge for them. So the first major group of primates is the prosimians. All right, so we're going to use this cladogram right here. You guys should know what a cladogram is at this point. All right, and this is a chart that just shows hominids, and which is basically us and our ancestors, how closely related to a lot of these other primates in the world. All right, so prosimians are the earliest primates, and today they are nocturnal primates with large eyes adapted to seeing in the dark. So for example, you got your tarsiers of Asia and lemurs of Madagascar. And there's a few other groups in here, but these are kind of our furthest relatives. If you look at this cladogram, this kind of shows, remember, the closer you are, all right, from the more related you are. So these would be like chimpanzees might be our first cousins, gorillas would be our second cousins. Obviously there's more distance than that, but that's just kind of a way to explain it. Anthropoids, these are human-like primates. These include New World monkeys and the Old World monkeys. All right, so these are these guys right here. And with these, as well as us and these guys. So this is a different subsect. All right, these include New World monkeys in the Americas. All right, so, and Old World monkeys in Africa and Asia. All right, so if you think about when these animals were discovered, basically the idea is that the New World is when, Christopher Columbus sailed the sea and found the New World, which was the Americas. So that's why we call these the New World monkeys and these the Old World monkeys. The New World monkeys had something called a prehensile tail, which is this structure right here. This is a coiling tail that serves as a fifth hand. And Old World monkeys are from Africa and Asia. All right, but you also on this chart also shows where lemurs and tarsiers are located as well as lorsies, and these are another group of prosimians. They're from India. Hominoids, these are anthropoids that are related to old world monkeys that lack prehensile tails. Alright, so if you look right here, they're a little bit more related to us, alright, but they lack the prehensile tails. They don't have the spider monkey tail of being able to function as that fifth hand. This includes gorillas, chimpanzees, and indeed us humans. So this would be this group right here. So gibbons, orangutans, all those guys as well. So it's a little confusing is now we're going to talk about the hominids. We are a hominid. Alright, that is kind of the next subdivision. Alright, but we are not necessarily hominoids. So if you look right here, hominoids as this group, if you look at this chart, and hominids are just us humans. And then also it includes our closest ancestors that eventually have died off. So some of their characteristics that they have are, this is, modern humans and their closest ancestors. And some of the characteristics that we have is they are bipedal. We are bipedal. So basically bi means two. And think of pedal like pedaling a bike, using 2 feet to move. Opposable thumbs, alright, to grab things as well as play games, right? And encephalization. So ceph, if you remember what that is, that means head. So getting a bigger cerebrum or getting a bigger head, bigger brain, so you can do more complex things like hunting and tool making and stuff like that, and further doing this process. So now we're going to talk about kind of putting the puzzle together. So basically when you think about us trying to put together how humans have evolved, alright, it's not like you're trying to find the missing link, alright? That's what I don't think I hear this as much anymore, but it's all about, where's the missing link? How do you get exactly from monkeys to humans? But in reality, there are many missing links, and we just kind of have little snapshots, alright, in time that we have to put into the puzzle of, okay, we think that this group is pretty related to our ancestor, this one's not as much, and it's older, and from there we have to use these tools, we have to use these pieces of the puzzle to put together what we think how human evolution happened. Alright, so this is kind of something to just kind of wrap your brain around. Like most organic material does not fossilize. That's why if you go outside and you dig a giant hole in the ground, you aren't going to find a dinosaur fossil, because most organic materials don't fossilize, and most of them just rot away or naturally. It's actually pretty rare to create a fossil. So we are left with an incomplete roadmap. Alright, but we do think that humans evolved first in East Africa and what is today modern Kenya. Alright, and we think we know that because of the different types of fossils we found. We found a lot of the really early ones in Kenya and East Africa, and then they seem to spread out from there, and then you start to get a little bit more recent and more advanced hominid fossils and pieces of the puzzle. So one of the first groups, this is not considered, it's a different genus, it's a kind of the farthest out group, and we'll look at this in another picture, but that's Australopithecus. This is a group of hominids that were bipedal apes that had pretty small brains, maybe compared to a chimpanzee, they're a little bit bigger, but compared to us, humans are pretty small. And other hominid fossils we'll find they're pretty small. And they evolved before big brains, but they showed to be bipedal. So that showed that we went upright before we kind of got the really big brain. Lucy, alright, that is a remarkably complete skeleton of this lineage, founded by the Leakeys. So very complete skeleton, very famous. So this is kind of showing a chart that shows some of the things that we will talk about. Here's us, Homo sapiens. But what you're able to do is you're kind of able to compare, all right, the different types of brains, and looking at how the skull has changed in hominids. All right, so here's our Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus robustus. All right, so you can kind of see how they've changed. And what this is looking at is on the left side, this is millions of years ago. Basically, we are able to tell that as time went on, the brains kind of got bigger. This kind of jaw or mouth went in to the skull. All right, as time went on and things got smarter. And this, how big this bar is, what that's basically telling you is how long that this species we think is around based on the fossil evidence. So like for example, this guy was around from about 3.9 million years ago to about 3.0 million years ago. All right, this guy was around from 3 million years ago to about 2.2 million years ago-ish. Okay, so when we're going to talk about some of these guys, not all their skulls are listed. This kind of gives you a good overview of some of these hominid fossils. Next, we're going to talk about genus Homo. They had bigger brains, and modern humans are included in this genus Homo. So the first one is Homo habilis. Habilis means handyman. So this is a species that was found with tools of stone and bone. Here's habilis right here, what we think he kind of looked like. Homo erectus had bigger brains and downward-facing nostrils, and is more similar to modern humans. So this is Homo erectus right here. There's another one, Rudolfensis. All right, not as well known, but erectus and habilis are a little bit more documented in the fossil record, and so. But this kind of also shows, like, Homo erectus we think was one of the first ones that possibly migrated out of Africa, and from Homo erectus we think that maybe we evolved from these migrated species, and or at least it was one of the first primates to kind of move out. Okay, maybe. There's a big question mark here. This is kind of showing how hominids migrated out of Africa, kind of expanding from East Africa to other places like Europe, like South America, like the Pacific Islands. So this is the generalized idea of how they migrated and spread across the world. All right, so the last group we're going to talk about is Homo neanderthalensis. We coexisted, Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis. We lived together. I think they lived till about 30,000 years ago. All right, it's from the most recent fossils discovered. Was dated to of the Neanderthals. They kind of call them the Neanderthals. And they used tools and lived in organized groups similar to, Homo sapiens or modern humans. All right, and they disappeared around 30,000 years ago. And we don't know exactly why. We think that maybe we were better at competing with with the Neanderthals so that's possible. That's one of the major explanations. There's also some DNA evidence that a small proportion, like a couple percent of modern humans actually have Neanderthal DNA inside of us. So that kind of also maybe tells us that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals interbred, and there was some DNA that was transferred, so possibly kind of bred together and led to the extinction of this Neanderthalensis line. Last thing, we're going to talk about some major human adaptations. These might be some of the first things that you would learn about maybe in a history class. This is kind of going up to that point, is we're going to talk about just a little bit about some of the major adaptations that led us humans to be human. So one example is culture and civilization, the fact to live in giant groups, elaborate tool use. So for example, using stuff like weapons and these things called arrowheads, as well as speech. The ability to communicate is very important as well. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day.